Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of the Profitable Mindset Podcast.
Welcome to the Profitable Mindset, a show dedicated to teaching you the skills you need to build a profitable product-based business that makes you feel free and fully in control. Here is your host, Charlotte Smith.
Hey there, welcome to episode number 39, all about a 10-year plan that will ensure your business profits. Super excited to share this with you. I do not have an MBA or anything, so my business plans are always very simple. And the people I work with love them because I find a lot of people do not do a business plan because it can be overwhelming. They look at it and think, wow, this is a lot of pages and a lot of numbers, and so they don't ever do it. So I found that if we can have just a simple one, it's better than nothing at all. So I think you're going to like this one today. All right. Happy summer, you guys. We are in the middle of summer, and here in Oregon, it is finally summer. We are having gorgeous, beautiful weather. It was kind of a cold, slow start. And I know a lot of you are actually really suffering with a lot of heat. So wherever you are, I'm hoping you're at least having a great summer, no matter what it is your weather is doing to you. All right, so let's dive into this 10-year plan. When I first started my business, I winged it like many of us do. Again, this was 11 years ago. I didn't understand at that time that I'm the one who decides how much money I make, not the customers or not the public or not the location I lived in. That's not the determinant of how much money I could make. I get to decide that. So I want to teach this concept to you too, that you will decide how much you want to make, and then you'll go make that happen. It was probably year 2 or 3 that I finally sat down and said to myself, all right, I have 3 cows. I get this many gallons of milk per week. So I am going to predict I'll make this much money at the end of the year. What that made me realize right away is, okay, I got to raise my price because I'm limited on the number of cows I can have, yet it was full-time work. I had to raise my price and then work to get to 100 customers per week. That's what I determined that them spending a certain amount would get me to my number. Then what happened is when I started planning it intentionally, I knew exactly what steps I had to take to get there. This is so important, you guys, that this is how you create a profitable business. You decide what your numbers are going to be, and then you have a roadmap for the things you have to do to get there. And another reason why this is so important is if you make it through those first 3 years, you're going to have a much better chance of survival. And this is one thing that will help your chances. Most people lose it in year 1 or 2. They give up. They go out of business. And one big reason is most people never expected it would be as difficult as it is to build a business. They didn't know it would be so hard, so they give up. So many of you feel really bad that first year or 2. There's just a lot of failing. Remember, I talked about this in episode 37, so listen to that again if you need reassurance that this is totally normal, that year 1 and 2 are really awful a lot of the time. And this 10-year plan I'm going to help you create, I want to start by talking to you about year 1. Year 1, you need to focus on 4 things to have a much better chance of success. The first thing you want to focus on in year 1 is I want it to be a break-even year for you. A break-even year is a good year in year 1. Sometimes the first 2 or 3 years might be break-even or at a loss, especially if you're raising products like many of us are that are pretty lower profit margin. So that just know that that's what might happen. What I mean by that is if you invest $10,000 to start your business in year 1, I want you to make $10,000. This is a good goal to have because it's going to encourage you to learn marketing the right way immediately. I came to my business with that skill. I'd had another business that I sold, so I knew how to market my products. which meant I started off so much more successfully than if I'd put off learning that. So either be sure you're learning that those first few years, or even learn it. If you haven't started your business yet, learn it now. It's the best time to learn it. And a lot of what happens is many of you think that you're not able to charge as much as you need to at first, and you feel bad charging that price that you realize you need to charge. But here's what I want to tell you. Pricing your products is not about you. You're the CEO of your business and your life. You've got to step into the role of being the CEO, and determining a profitable price has nothing to do with you or your worth. You got to take that out of the equation. There's no room for doubt that you are worth charging money for, okay? It's not about you. If you have doubt about charging a sustainable price with a healthy, hefty profit in there, get some coaching on that, because you won't get very far and you'll limit your ability to succeed long term if you don't get help figuring out how to charge a price without feeling that it's all about you and you're not worth it. You got to get over that from the start. And always remember, my marketing course, which is fantastic, not only teaches you the skill of marketing, but through learning that, it gives you the confidence to charge what you need to charge. So that is one of the benefits of taking that course, is you build confidence. So make sure you've set yourself up to at least break even your first year of business by learning how to get your products to the people who will buy them at the price you need to charge. You've got to charge a sustainable, profitable price. If you get behind in pricing because you start out low thinking that will attract customers because you're less than the neighbor or you're less than the grocery store, and that's your marketing plan, you will almost never catch up. It's really difficult. And this is not about the math. Just remember that. When you aren't charging enough, it's about what's going on in your head. It's not about simple math. So ask yourself, why am I not charging what I need to be in order to make that 40 or 50% profit margin? Ask yourself. What most people come up with is they don't believe in themselves enough. So again, if you're not charging enough, re-listen to episode 37 and episode 38, which teaches you how to build confidence and get your mind right. Because you're not doing anyone any good by sitting in a place of, I don't feel I can charge this much. Or here's a sneaky way you tell yourself that. Some people will say, my market won't bear what I have to charge. It won't bear any more than what I'm charging. That thought is poisonous too, because your market will bear the exact price you have to charge to be profitable when you have that relationship with them. And it does not serve your customers either to not price fairly. It's not creating more loyalty in them if you start out with a low price. It's not creating a willingness for them to pay double or even have a respect for your products. It's not serving you or your customers. So just remember, your products are not about you. It's your obligation as a business owner, as the CEO of your business, your life, to get your profit margins up where they need to be so you're around for the long term. And to be able to have a break-even year, that first year, this is important. You'll want to get your pricing in order from the start. And I failed at this first 11 years ago, but luckily I figured it out about 2 months in. I was looking at the numbers, realizing, whoa, my milk was priced way too low. And at least I knew enough to be looking at those numbers from the start and realize this. So I raised my price 2 months in. And I can tell you this now, in 11 years of having business or being in business, I've rarely lost customers due to price increases, maybe 1%. I hear this from my clients and my students as well. When you practice what I teach in Farm Marketing from the Heart, people will not bat an eye when you raise your price. My students are always pleasantly surprised or even excited to know, wow, I raised my price and nobody left. How cool is that? Because they're handling their marketing correctly. All right, now thinking back to my first year too, I took $20,000 cash to start my farm. And that first year, I had $50,000 in sales. Now, does that mean that I had $30,000 in the bank at the end of that first year? Of course not. It all went back into the business. And even the first couple of years, bought more stock. I upgraded things, so many more little things I wanted to do. I would love to be able to say that I made that $50,000 very intentionally because I decided to, but I didn't know all this stuff I'm sharing with you. So it was actually very unintentional. Like at the end of the first year doing my numbers, I realized, oh, I made $50,000 in sales. How cool is that? So what I wanted to share with you is that with intention, you can go so much further. All right. Number 2, second thing I want you to know about that first year or two is I want you to plan on failing as often as possible. Here's something you may not know or understand yet, but listen in and consider it. The more you fail that first year, the more successful you'll be, period. The people who don't succeed are the ones that sit on the sidelines wanting to succeed, but they're scared to fail. They're scared to charge what they need to charge. They're scared to send that email once a week telling people to buy. And so what you got to learn is you got to fail big and you got to fail often. Don't sit on the sidelines scared of what your actions might do. So what's going to happen is you're going to do the thing. You're going to set the price. You're going to send the sales email. Or you're going to raise the product and then you're going to fail. You fail in the product. You fail in pricing. People complain. People don't buy. And you're going to want to think that first year that this means that you're not doing it right and you should quit. But when you have your 10-year success plan in mind here, you'll know that failure is the path to get to success. And failure does not mean you're not doing it right. You have to quit. Failure does mean you're doing it right. Isn't that crazy? So don't say to yourself, oh, I have a marketing problem or I have a sales problem. Instead, what you want to tell yourself is, I'm figuring this out. That first year, you want to tell yourself a lot of that. I'm figuring out how to market. I'm figuring out how to build a website. I'm figuring out how to price my products. Because when you blame it on the technology, like my website's not working, or I'm in the wrong area for the products I sell, people don't appreciate them. If you tell yourself that, you won't succeed long term. So I hear this from my students. It takes a while to get this mindset shift, but I hear from them regularly. They try to blame their lack of sales on their emails are going to spam or their emails are going to the promotions tab. This is not why you're not making money. And as soon as you own that you're the bottleneck and how you're thinking about it is the bottleneck, then you will be more likely to go do the things to fail often and then tweak it, do it a little bit differently, risk failing again and again, then you'll get to success. But as long as you blame it on something outside of you, then you won't get there. And I know for a fact from both my own experience and from coaching and teaching now hundreds of business owners each year, the more you fail, the more you learn, which means the more you're going to be able to create great products and a very successful business. Otherwise, you'll stay too small to get any momentum if you're scared of failing, if you're scared of sending sales emails every week, if you're scared of publishing your website, if you're scared to get out and tell people to pay your prices. All right. Digging into those hard things will teach you to be okay failing, because the fails, here's what I can tell you, they're going to get bigger as you get bigger. As your business grows, the fails will get bigger. So just know that. As you go on in business, you won't stop failing, but what will happen is you'll just get better at handling it. So it's not as big of a deal. It's not going to end your life. A lot of people are deathly afraid of failing. You got to make friends with it. All right. Speaking of making friends with it, number 3 of the 4 things you got to focus on that first year. Number 3 is I want you to make friends with the worst case scenario. When you accept the worst case scenario from the start, then you'll stop trying to dodge it. What happens is we get so scared of failing that we don't do the things, and we're trying to dodge that feeling, and we don't grow. We don't do the things we need to do. So ask yourself from the start, what's the worst possible thing that can happen? People doubt you. People complain to you. They send you nasty emails or make nasty comments. Or maybe the worst case scenario is you lose everything. I want you to accept it. Of course, people will doubt and complain. It's part of doing business. It's part of humanity. Accept your worst case scenario. You might go out of business. You might go broke. But guess what? Going broke is not the end of the world. You just pick up. You've got the skills in many of these podcast episodes to go broke and pick right back up and then build a successful business the next time. And you'll be so much more likely to if you've done it and failed at it. What happens is if you don't accept and embrace the worst case scenario ahead of time, you just end up making it a huge deal in your head, and it's far more likely to happen because you're worrying about trying to avoid it. So if you're worried that maybe no one will buy my stuff, then you won't price your products properly. You won't price them to make that 40 to 50% profit margin. So then notice that you're worried that no one will buy your stuff and your price will be too low and you'll never get to success. So make friends with your worst case scenario. Make peace that it could happen. Be okay living alongside of it and doing the things you need to do anyway. All right. And number 4 of the 4 things to focus on that first year, I don't know on yourself. Did you know that saying, I don't know how, or I don't know, stops you in your tracks? And it's something I hear from people a lot. What happens is I don't know pretends to be important in your brain. It pretends to be a really important thought. What happens though is it shuts down the part of your brain that will be motivated to figure it out. So I don't know and I'm figuring out are 2 different thoughts that can't coexist in your brain. So I've just learned over the years to kick out the phrase, I don't know, out of my vocabulary and to replace it with, I'm figuring this out. Don't let yourself say things like, I don't know what to charge. And right now I know someone's listening to this podcast saying, but I don't know what to charge. Like you're going to prove me wrong. But what I want you to know is if you tell yourself you don't know what to charge, you'll be stuck. You won't figure out exactly what to charge. And that's all you have to do. Tell yourself, I'm figuring out what to charge. Or instead of I don't know, say, I am learning to set my price with a 40% profit margin. Tell yourself anything but I don't know. Here's another one I hear. I don't know how to sell. I don't know where to sell. I don't know who to sell to. I don't know where my ideal customers are. I don't know what to raise. I don't know what to name my business. I hear a lot of these things every single day. Telling yourself I don't know does not serve you, yet I hear it all the time. So here are some ideas of things to say instead. I'm figuring out where my ideal customers are. I'm figuring out how to sell and make a profit. I'm going to find out how to build a website. I'm in the process of learning how to market my products. Tell yourself anything but I don't know. Stops you from taking action. So just ban that phrase from your vocabulary. Now, I want to move into some other things you'll need to know about your 10-year plan. Years 1 to 3 are what I call the grind. And this is a grind physically, mentally, and emotionally. And this is why a lot of people give up. They think the grind shouldn't be there, but you can expect the grind. All right. This is what your brain is constantly doing this year. I mean, that first year, because it's constantly facing hard things you have to learn, things you have to figure out, physical challenges. It's a lot of work. So I want you to expect it and embrace it. Okay. That first year is all about the hustle. And again, this might be the first years 1 to 3. You're going to hustle a lot. And what you need to know is you can't hustle as the years go on. So years 5 to 10 cannot be about the hustle. You'll go broke if you continue that. You'll totally burn yourself out. But you're going to hustle a lot those first couple of years. As the years go on, you have to get smarter about working. So once my coaching clients are in years 3 and 5 and 10, they can't be hustling anymore. So we work to make sure that's not happening. And this is a transition you'll have to make later, but years 1 to 3, you're going to do a lot of hustling. You're going to get your products to people any way you can. You will be working extra hours. You will be doing special favors. You will be allowing people to take a little bit of advantage of you, things you can't do in years 5 to 10. You're going to over deliver. You might have to drive things to people's houses because you forgot something. It's what you got to do. All right. So just know that years 1, 2, and maybe into year 3 is all about the hustle, the grind, failing, making mistakes, and not running from any of it. And this is going to require one more skill. You're going to have to learn to focus and constrain. Focus on one thing and constrain yourself to that one thing. Because in the beginning, with all this failure, what happens is your brain wants to constantly change its mind. Like you started out with you decide to raise some chickens and sell them. And you start out with your lower price that you think you need to start out with. And you sell a lot to friends and family, but then that's where it ends. You decide to raise a couple hundred more and you can't sell them. So then what you do is you think, oh, well, they will buy them if I have another product like beef. So you switch to beef cows or pigs. And then all of a sudden you realize you're not selling enough of the chickens or the pork or the beef. So you think, oh, I need to add vegetables or sheep or milk or whatever it is. Pretty soon, very quickly, that first year or 2, you're so far in the hole financially. And what's happened is you still haven't learned how to sell because you think the answer is the product. You think you have to change the product until you find the one that people want to buy. But when you learn to sell, what happens is you'll be able to build a profitable business with any product. And I mean this, learn to sell. It doesn't matter what you produce. So in that first 3 years, you will be tempted to constantly want to change your product or the way of doing business, or you'll think, oh, I'm not at the right farmer's market. I have to switch to that farmer's market. But do not let your brain trick you into doing this. It won't get you anywhere. I've seen many business owners that just add and switch focus and switch to that and raise more of this, and they fail, so they think they have to raise something else. I want you to commit to one thing for the first couple years and give yourself a chance to make it, which means you're going to have to give yourself a chance to learn how to market it, sell it at a profitable price so that you learn that skill on that one product. Before you ever add any products, you got to get really good at selling that one. Your brain is going to fight you on this. It's going to try to tell you, oh, you're not raising the right thing. You know, that guy over there, he's more successful and he added this product, so you better do it too. Don't let yourself go there. And then by year two or 3, I want you to be at that 50% profit margin with that one product. So don't scale up on a tiny profit margin. What happens is you're just working a lot harder to make a little bit more money, and you'll dig into that debt hole a lot quicker. So make sure you start out with great focus and constraint this first couple years. Get your price up to 50% profit margin within year 2 or 3, then scale up your business. Scale up on the amount of product you produce or the variety. And this is one of the top reasons people go out of business. They scale up too quickly, whether it's the number of products they sell or the amount of one product. So just focus, get it to that sustainable price, and stick with that the first couple years. Okay, so now that you've got your mindset all set, you know what to expect that first couple years. A lot of hustle, grind, failure, constraint, which won't feel good. Let's dive into creating that 10-year plan. One bit of research I love to share is that research shows we often, as humans, overestimate what we can do in 1 year, and we underestimate what we can do in 10 years. So that's why we're going to start with a 10-year plan and work backward to year one. So say your goal in 10 years is to make $500,000 a year. Now, this is going to vary for you. That was the goal I had. So of course, if you have 1 acre and you're raising flowers, you're going to have a different number than that, most likely. Or if you have 20 acres, or if you have 10,000 acres, it doesn't matter. So figure out what works for you. That was my goal. For me, it was a big stretch, and yet I knew it was probably doable. So figure out what that number is for you. Where do you want to be in 10 years? Make sure it's a big stretch for you. How many, and here's what I want you to think of next, is how many customers will you need to have in order to generate that amount of money for your 10-year goal? Do the math. For me, that was 200 weekly customers spending an average of $50 each. Yes, it was a stretch, but I knew it was doable. So figure out what that number is for you. How many customers will you need to have in order to generate that amount of money for your 10-year goal? And for you, it might be weekly, or depending on the products, it might be monthly or even quarterly. So do the math and just know that in 10 years to reach that financial goal that you set, are you going to have 100 customers or 1,000 customers or what? This also then dictates what you charge. When I know my goal is 200 people spending $50 a week, and that is the amount of sales I want to make, I know what I have to charge because I know the limit of my products. So I know what if they're spending $50, I know what each product has to be priced at. And then I want you to pay attention to what are the assets you've got in your business? What are your products? What are you selling? For me, it was raw milk, and it was all the cheese and nutrition classes we taught here on the farm. It's a little bit of one-on-one consulting and coaching. And it was my book I wrote. That's an asset I had. So just know, I want you to list out all the assets you have, that you've created. So get really specific and make a list of that. And those are ones that are profitable. If you're selling something that is not profitable, I wouldn't include it in here. So you got to really take a look at what's profitable. Are you giving farm tours and classes and products? Then those are your assets. Now you have 10 years to create that money, and now you've created that vision. And what's nice is your brain doesn't freak out over this 10-year vision because you're not asking yourself to have it right away. And your brain is better about thinking bigger long-term, and it gets stressed and a little anxious when you ask your brain to think shorter term. So by planning this 10-year goal first, your brain is very casual and relaxed and be like, oh, yeah, I can totally do that. $500,000, 100 weekly or 200 weekly customers. I got that. I have 10 years to make that happen. So that's why we start with that end. Now we're going to back it up to the 5-year mark. At 5 years, I want to be making $250,000 a year consistently. And again, how many customers? For me, that's 100 customers a week on the farm. And also, I still had cheese classes for 5-year versus 10-year. I had the same number of classes, but my price was lower at the 5-year mark because as we made our classes more and more valuable, people got more value out of them, the price could go up. So I was able to charge more at the 10-year point. All right. And now let's go back to my year one. I made $50,000. That was 50 weekly customers, which I got to that about month 2, spending an average of $20 each. Remember, this was 11 years ago. And in addition to the products we sold that first year, we did paid farm tours, and I started my first couple of cheese classes that first year. So those were my assets. Those were the things I created that first year to make money with. I had products, I had classes, and I had tours. So what are your assets you'll have that first year? You decide what figure you want that first year, knowing, but keep in mind that most people overestimate what they can make in year one. Most people come to me when they first start and they say, oh, I want to replace my day job income that first year. Well, that's overestimating for most of us. Or they want to replace their day job income even by year 2. That's really overestimating. So don't do that. Don't let yourself do that. Give your business a chance. Plan on that break-even year, maybe even a loss. But here's what I want you to notice. Notice how working backward from the 10-year big goal makes that 1-year goal of 50 weekly customers, $50,000, so much more doable already. All right. That's why we start with the big goal. And then when you work your way back, you see that it's so much smaller and your brain is like, hey, I can do this. Now, it is going to seem harder that first year due to the constant brain grind that you're going to have because everything is new. You're learning new things. You're raising things you've never raised before. You're learning how to do business. You're learning how to market. You might be learning how to hire people and manage employees. You're learning how to manage the public, which is a big learning curve, and with your customers. So the grind that first year or two is going to make it seem way harder than it is to make money those first few years, but it's okay. This is where you're going to develop strength and resilience. Also, to have that, you must have developed the confidence I teach about in episode 38. So listen to that again, because you're going to spend your whole first year making commitments to learn new things or do something hard. Then you're going to freak out at how hard it is. So you're going to need that courage to handle it until you finally get to confidence. That's the whole first year. So remember, episodes 37, 38, 39, which is this one, all go together to get you set up for success. And just remember, don't put the pressure on yourself to replace your day job income that first year. Won't work. It's not what it's there for. You've got to serve your business. You got to build it up first before it can serve you by replacing your day job income. Okay, that's it. A very simple, non-complex 10-year plan. Figure out how much money you want to make in 10 years. What are the assets you'll have? What are the number of customers you need? And how much will they be spending to reach that number? Then go to year 5, figure out the same thing. What will be your assets? What are you creating and selling? How many customers do you need? How much will they be spending to reach that goal? Then year 1, set an amount of money that allows you to break even. How much did you spend to go into business? Commit to making that amount in sales. That's going to give you the motivation to learn how to market and how to sell. Okay, and my amount that first year was 2.5 times my cash investment. So it is absolutely possible. And give this all a try, you guys. If you need help with any of it, having confidence, planning, pricing, failing, wondering, all those things, always you can consider signing up for a one-on-one coaching program with me. There is a link, 3cowmarketing.com/strategy to sign up for the first session to figure out if my paid program is right for you. That first session is free if you're deciding on coaching. That is where you are going to transform your life and your business immensely. All right, I will see you next week where I continue on this summer business series.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. For more great resources, check out theprofitablemindset.com. See you next time.